profile. Okay. Anyone know why it's important to do a performance profile? Okay, not sure. Okay, let's see, in a game of football, what's important to be the best you can be, to succeed? What do you need to develop? Anything?
Skills.
Okay, you need to develop skills, absolutely. So the physical side of the game is really important. Okay, you know the physical side is really important.
Confidence.
Well, that falls into psychological demands. Yeah, okay. Technique as well, and the physical side, technical side. So I've got like a bit of a pie chart here. It's fitness, technique, tactical, and also psychological demands. Within that pie chart, then you can subcategorize different areas. For example, the fitness, you can consolidate into fitness testing. Have you done fitness testing before?
Yeah.
Okay, so you might do things like 20-meter sprints, bleep test, the Cooper test, which is the 12-minute run, or you might have more advanced testing, like reaction time and speed gates and speed guns, so on and so forth, okay? What tests have you done so far? What fitness tests have you done? Okay, so you want to make sure the results of your test physically are on par with where you need to be at your level. Okay, so for example, if I was working with a team which was in the Premier League or in League 2, I'd look at the fitness test of the team that's on top and gauge where they should be. Does that make sense? So for example, let's do some tests that we used to do years ago. We don't really do these anymore because you've got more technology. Say bleep test, you'd want, say, a fullback, a midfielder, and a striker have certain levels of fitness. Maybe a 12-minute run, you'd want them to cover, say, 3,000 metres as a defender, 3-4 as a midfielder, or 3-8 as a midfielder, and 3-4, and maybe run a sub-3 for 20 metres. So then you subcategorise, and then you take that into the game. Okay, like the bleep test. Tactical awareness is your positional awareness. Who knows in the group what you should be doing? Are you clear on your role? Okay, you're really clear. And that's the key. That's where you talk to people like Chris, who knows the game very well, and you ask him about your role and other coaches. But what you also do, I'm going to give you some ideas to improve that, is watch people play. So, did you watch the Women's World Cup or anything like the European Cup? Yeah. So you watch that, and what you want to do is think, if I was playing against her, what would I do? Visualization. That comes into the psychological process. So, not just watching as a fan, because you play at a high level. It's a good level you're playing at. And the reality is that you're not too far away from potentially playing at that high level. It's possible. You know, I've worked with people before at your level, and they've gone on to go above and beyond maybe even their own expectations. So you can do it, but the key is to get an idea. The technique involves passing, shooting, heading the ball, and you know, the psychological focus. These aren't exhaustive, but they're just to give you an idea. Now back to here, so we're going to break things down, okay? What you do, the first thing, is do you grade your performance every game? So after you've played the game, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being high, you grade yourself. A genuine, honest appraisal. Why would you grade yourself, do you think? Because if you grade yourself, you can then go away and think, okay, what's my strength, what's my weakness? So if I grade myself and I'm 5 out of 10, it might be too much of a jump to go to 10 out of 10. I may want to go to 6. And to get to 6, I need to improve, back to the profile, maybe my left foot. Okay, perhaps I've got to get quicker. Perhaps I've got to get more confidence, more spatial awareness, learn to get in the zone. Okay, so what I want you to do, first thing you do, is to get in the habit of grading your game, because then you'll improve, you're constantly improving. Okay, find a role model. Who has got role models in the game? Anybody have any players that you look up to or watch play, or you sort of think? Anybody? Okay. So you don't yeah.
What's going on? Just too shy tonight.
Yeah, exactly. That's okay.
Usually this shy.
That's fine. That's okay. So you look at the player and you think, okay, what does he or she do different to me? So you find a model of excellence. Other techniques you can do, we're going to sort of cover the technical side. So the technical side, you can visualize your technique. Okay. Before we go on to appraising the game and moderating our anxiety in a game, we're going to look at how we can visualize our technique. So you visualize yourself doing the technique, break the technique down into components. You might think this is not necessary, but many years ago, to give you an example, there was a young lad I was working with. He was a scholar at Macclesfield, and he had what they call Osgood's flatters. I don't know if you know what the condition is, but it affects the knees. I'm not a medical person, that's not my area, but I knew he couldn't train. So I was working with him because he couldn't train, and the physio I spoke to, I said, could you give him some exercise he can do? It doesn't affect his knees. And what happened is I got him to visualize his technique. Okay? By the end of the program, when they were making decisions to recruit players, contracts, Jay at that point had improved technically as good as anybody else who practiced physically by rehearsal mentally. Now I'm more than happy to email Chris a copy of one of my books that covers visualization. Because of time, we won't have a lot of time to go into in detail this evening to practice that. There were studies in Chicago University that took the basketball net, 3 groups of basketballers, one practiced physically, one practiced visually, one didn't practice at all. Over 6 weeks, who do you think improved the most? The ones who practiced visually improved the most. So you visualize your technique. You know, arms out for balance, foot alongside the ball, strike through the ball. You visualize that. It's really important you visualize that. Okay? For your tactical, same again. Visualization is a big skill. Setting goals is key and fundamental to all of this. Who sets goals in the group? Okay, maybe a little bit too shy to say set goals. So, okay, put a hand up. And it's good to set a goal. Why is it good to set a goal? It is. And human beings, we're goal directed. We are always looking for a goal, whether we realize it or not, because we're goal directed in our behavior. So you can direct your behavior, okay, by setting goals. And you don't have to set yourself huge goals, just basic goals to improve my left foot, right foot, heading the ball. It can be process goals, but it can also be to play at the highest level I can be. How do you find success? What makes a successful player? Anybody tell me what makes a successful player? The level that they play, or being the best they can be? I think so. That's all any of us can do. You know, are you successful if you have potential and you end up playing, for many years at a higher level, but don't realise that? Well, it's debatable. You know, you are equally as successful if you play, in my opinion, in Sunday League, if you're the best you can be. Okay? And that's all anyone can ask you to do. At your level, it's a good level. Fantastic level. Great platform for you if you decide to go on, but also enjoy the game and play against good players. That's what you want. Okay? So in view of that, I will share some principles that perhaps you might take on board and it might help you go to where you want to go. So the first thing I want to say, create a vision for yourself. Decide what level you want to play. Is it you want to play for England one day? Is it you want to play for maybe one of the bigger traditional clubs in the area? You're quite fortunate to live in this area because you've got many football clubs. And obviously you live in a very good country with many opportunities academically and also prospect-wise. But you've got City down the road, you've got many clubs in the area. If you aspire to dream, so you have a goal, you set the goal, okay? And because of time, I'm not going to do the process with you this evening, but I can send you some stuff that you can work on. So you set a goal. Once you've got a goal, then you can not overwhelm with too many goals, just a goal. Maybe to be in the team regularly, if you're not in the team regularly. Maybe it is to win a trophy together collectively, okay? And then you start to decide on your profile, what do I need to do to get there, okay? What areas do I need to improve? And you improve incrementally, okay? From the point of view of confidence, okay, you sort of start to focus on the games you've played well. Has everyone got 2 or 3 games they've played really well? Okay, so you focus on those, and what did you do when you played well? Because we analyse negative performance too much, analyse good performance. What did I do when I played well? What do you see, hear and feel? You learn to get in the zone, and your awareness, if that makes sense. So there's a number of techniques like developing cues that you can use. And you'll see in the work I've done over many years, some of the footballers I work with, for example, when they go to take a penalty or a free kick, you've seen players tap their foot. Now, not every player that taps their foot is doing what I have instructed some players to do, but some of them that I've worked with is for them to block out the outside world and focus on the process. Do you know what I mean by that? So if you're taking a penalty in the World Cup final, okay, what is the difference between taking a penalty in the World Cup final and in training? Precisely. Good answer. The pressure. What's going on? The expectation. So you will have watched the Women's World Cup when the penalty, I don't recall the player now, but she stood up, credit to her, to take a penalty. I'm not undermining her because it takes courage to do that, but you could see her technique wasn't probably what it would normally have been because the pressure gets to people. But in training, you can score 9 times out of 100. So you've got to find a way, and there's ways to get in the zone, to get into flow. Okay, what the scientists call the zone when you're playing really, really well of optimum performance. And that's all in the psychology, okay? And that's all in your profile going forward. And I'm sort of going to do some basic techniques with you that you can elaborate on in your own time, in your own pace. But that's what you're focusing on. That's what's going to get you to where you want to get to. So the first thing I will do when I get taken on board by a club, and I used to do a lot more work in clubs than I do now, I still do now, is look at the physical side. If your physical element is not up to par, then is any of this going to work? You know how often you touch a ball in the game of football, generally speaking? About 2-3 minutes contact. So what are you doing for the rest of the game? You're running, you're moving, intermittently, burst. Not like a marathon, you're running in bursts. So you know what energy system you're training? The anaerobic energy system, ATP production to burst. Okay, so it's important because you're not running linear in a game. Forwards, backwards, side, walking, jogging. So you break the punch down and you do the fitness test, and you can. If you're a huge club in the Premier League, you've got the benefit of advanced testing mechanisms. If you're not, then obviously you've got to do things like the bleed, the Cooper, reaction drills, and adapter. And for your age, as a general rule, you probably want to aspire to get roughly maybe 2,800 meters at this point, maybe a little bit more in 12 minutes around the track, give or take. Perhaps the bleed test, doing the bleed test properly, maybe 10, 11. That's the stage you're in now. Maybe some of you do more or less. Some people say they do a lot more, but you're kind of dubious when they say that. And reaction drills, they're key. The tactical side, how you can improve that is think about a role model, okay, that you can look up to and reach out to. You know, there's like I said, there's clubs around this area. There's nothing stopping you, as long as it's done, through the proper channels, contacting, say, Man City and asking if you can watch some of their first team players and perhaps see what they do and imagine playing against them, because one day you might be playing against them. Everyone starts where you are and you're playing at a reasonably high level anyway. So why not take the extra level up? Okay, and that's the key, looking at what someone does. Make sure, in view of that, I think what's really important from a principal point of view, getting around people who want the best for you and you want the best for them is useful, because it's hard enough as it is in football and life in general. So the reality is you want to get around people who are going to support you in where you want to go, not just in football, because football is one element. Only so many people make it at the highest level, but we all have to find our place in life, whatever that might be, whether you become a psychologist, a fitness person, or whatever. You want to be the best you can be, and sort of getting around people who are and want the best for you is really important, because we can be influenced by the wrong people, and I've seen many professional people who could have been the best but did not, because other people had other ideas. So getting around a good group of people, he got a great group of people, a great coach, and I think the technique side, not just relying on training, going away from here and working on that. Okay, I think one of the reasons why in Spain, for example, in the men's game at least, they're better technically than what they are here, is at a very young age they're doing more sessions. Now it's debatable whether here we should adopt the same volume of hours as they are there. It might be changing, I'm sure Chris knows more than me, but what I would say is that if we're relying on what we do in training at an academy alone, in my opinion, if we want to be the best we can be, it's probably not enough. So it's maybe even going away and doing one session a week beyond the academy and improving this area here, maybe doing a multifunctional training session, which is key. Okay, going forward, focus, confidence, awareness, analysing your games. When you've got a goal, the drawback is that fear can debilitate us. You might think, oh no, what if I don't achieve it? Failure is a part of life. That's just the way it is. And I think sometimes reappraising the failure and seeing it as an opportunity to learn, it can be a good thing. It makes you stronger. Okay, you're not going to win every game. That's just a given. None of us do. Okay, how do you feel when you lose a game? Well, if you're anything like me, you feel disappointed. But what do? You know, you get on with things, don't you? And that's the key. Okay, you grow, you get stronger. Okay, and you move forward. Now, having said all this, and sort of, I have a chart you can use. I can send you, or send through Chris, and you can sort of plot your course. You write your goal, where you want to be, profile yourself. You do the fitness test with Chris, and you honestly appraise your physical side of the game, where you are confidence, awareness, motivation, your technique, and you decide to take steps incrementally to be where you want to be. The second phase of this evening I want to talk about before you go out, and some practical stuff, which I'm sure you're here to do, is going into a game. How does one feel? How do you feel when you go into a game? How do you feel when you go into a game? Yeah, and is it okay to be nervous?
Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. I can guarantee now, all the top players in the world feel nervous. Having worked and continuing to work at the highest level myself, I can guarantee you now, a lot of the performers you see get nervous. And I think it's a good thing. Why is it a good thing that they get nervous?
It can make you believe it.
Tells me they care, exactly, as long as they can channel it. Okay, as long as they don't get overwhelmed. So what I like to think about in nerves, think about the game, and take a moment now to think about your thoughts about the upcoming game. Okay, what you think about the game coming up. And your thoughts and beliefs about the game are going to have an impact on how you feel emotionally, what you do behaviourally, how you feel physiologically. So I'm going to give you some techniques in that area, separate the mesh of our thoughts, behaviour, emotion, physiology to be able to control. And this can be used also for exams in school, appraisal, life in general. Okay, it's a very simplistic model. So the first thing you do is using physiology to change biochemistry, is just practice your breathing. What happens when you feel anxious? Where do you breathe? You breathe high, because your nervous system is going into panic mode. Fight, flight, freeze. If you breathe high and fast, what happens to you? You hyperventilate, you get more nervous. Because you breathe deeper and slower, and that calms the nervous system down. So you can practice even by just holding your tummy and breathing deeper, and that will calm the sympathetic nervous system down. Okay, and there's some stuff in the book there I'll send you can read. You have to do it now, practice in your own time. That will help a lot. And that's the technique I use with people who do presentations, who do big meetings, who play at the highest level in sport, not just in football, to regulate their breathing, to tell the nervous system it's okay, I'm fine. Okay, then we can sort of have behavioural strategies, and that's how we do visualisation, mental rehearsal. Okay, visualise not just the outcome, the process. So if I've got a goal, if I'm going to shoot a penalty, what should I be focusing on? The crowd, the expectations,
No.
the process. Okay, so you visualise like watching a screen yourself on the screen, and then visualising the here and now associated, striking the ball over and over again. If I visualise 100 times and someone else doesn't visualise at all, then I'm building more pathways in the brain. That's how you learn as a child. As a child, when you took your first steps, you watched, okay, when you took your first words, you visualised. It took you probably thousands of times to mimic what was being said until eventually you said a word. Okay, so when you fell over as a child, as a baby, and you fell over, did any of your parents tell you not to bother no more, give up? You've fallen once? No, you keep going. So same applies here, you keep going. So behavioural strategy is important. What's really important too is how you regulate your emotion as well. Now you, at your age you are, do you know when the brain maturation occurs? Okay, brain maturation occurs at about 23, 24 years of age. So you feel what an adult feels emotionally, just about, but you don't process it in the same way because the way our brain develops. Okay? So I'm sort of giving you insight into the world of neuroscience, which means the way you appraise situations, okay, is a little bit different in terms of how you feel. So regulating emotion, doing mindfulness. Have you done mindfulness before? Just being with whatever feeling comes along, not fighting it. You don't have to always appraise it. So you know when you stub your toe, you hit your funny bone, you've done that before? Yeah. Okay? The pain goes away, doesn't it? Yeah. So same as the emotion, this too shall pass. It won't last forever. So sometimes we don't fight it, don't suppress it, because the evidence suggests to suppress it, it gets worse sometimes, long term. So talk to someone about how you feel. You've got a great coach, you've got a great support network. Speak to someone who you can confide in if you're a bit nervous about a game or things in general, and that will help you. Okay, there's nothing strong about bottling it in. If you bottle a fizzy pop and shake it, what happens? Precisely. So the key is to have an outlet going forward. And back in the game, how you appraise it, think about how you appraise in the game. If you play a team at a higher level, what will go through your mind, do you think? Precisely. Okay, you play a team at a lower level. So the key is really, what can you control? You can control yourself. You can't control the referee, the opposition. You can influence the outcome by playing your best performance and believing in yourself. So what you do as an appraisal is think about your thoughts. The game's coming in. What are my thoughts about the game? Okay? And what are your thoughts about a game coming up? Anybody want to share what your thoughts are?
How do you feel about Saturday's game?
No, I don't know the outcome.
Yeah. Okay.
Phoebe's not here.
So you're going into a cup game, you feel a bit nervous, okay? What are you nervous about, guys? Anything specific? Anything specific you're nervous about? Okay. So you're nervous about losing. And what will happen if you lose? You get knocked out? That's it. If you lose, it's finished. Okay? So that's the sort of pressure you're under. But what if you win? You go through. Okay? What if you go in there and just play to the best of your ability?
That's good.
If you give as much application effort as you can, and you think, well, you're young and you've got your whole career ahead of you, cups will come again. Not saying going into anything less than 100%, but controlling application effort. So years ago, a League 2 team had asked me to go in there and help them turn their season around, because I work with a lot of teams who are struggling. They asked me to go in when they're battling relegation to help them. I've been in teams to do that, and one of the things I do, the one thing I ask the players, and this happened a few years ago, a couple of teams, actually one season, one was in League 2, one was in the Premier League, and one thing I did is I said control the controllables, think of your best performance, and aspire to achieve that, and give as much application as you can. Okay, the rest is out of your hands. If you lose, obviously disappointed, but you analyse what you can improve. Does that make sense? So going into Saturday's game, the cup, it's a great opportunity for you. Phenomenal. You should relish it. You've got a fantastic coach. You're going to go in there prepared. You've got a lot of talent in the team. And how do you think they see you, the opposition?
You should be scared.
So they should. Exactly. That's one way to think. However you see them, you've got to think, well, they'll see you in the same way in one sense. If they're a bigger team, how might they see you? If they're a team in a higher league, they could be complacent. Have you seen what happens when teams are complacent? Precisely. So if you play a lesser team in terms of ability, one shouldn't get complacent. Because on the day, anyone can be anyone. And that's the beauty of this game. And the beauty about sport while we play. Okay? So that's about all I want to say. this evening, with the exception of time, and I will, and I'm happy to email Chris to forward stuff onto you if you want to read up more and learn and work on your skills. I sort of keep in touch with Chris anyway, and I'm always happy to help in any way I can in my area of expertise, which is the mine and around that area as well. And my work is quite broad, so I sort of work in various areas in terms of the mine. So I work in other areas as well as the sport too. So it's quite versatile in what I do, as you're probably aware, no doubt. If you're not, then that's sort of a brief insight into what I do in terms of the areas I work in. So it's kind of a broad spectrum of mental health, right to sports performance, but equally a lot of the principles that I use in this area, I use a lot in other stuff that I do, like radio broadcasting and writing articles and books and stuff like that. Before you go out there and practice physically, is there any questions you've got, anything you'd like to ask me? I'm more than happy to answer anything you've got or anything.
Don't be shy. Use this opportunity now, girls, because it's a one-off opportunity. So if you have got any questions, fire it. If you're scared to ask it, just ask it. There's no silly questions.
Okay.
What's like the best team you've liked?
It's hard to say. I mean, every team for me presents a new opportunity. I think I'm going to be diplomatic today because you guys are Barry. I'm going to say Barry years ago was great. I really enjoyed my time. I spent time at Barry between 2003, I think, and 2007. We had a great run at Barry. We produced a lot of good young players, some of which are playing in the Premier League now. You know, like Stevens and Pugh last year were playing in the Premier League for assistant. Many are scattered through the league, and we did really well. We sort of kept the team up, which was our goal, and we produced players, and we did really, really well. So I really enjoyed Barry. I really enjoy being in the town, but I've had the chance to work at obviously many clubs. Each club presents its own challenge. Yeah.
Did you used to play football yourself?
Well, I was more across the range of sports, so I did play football at a reasonable level, but also participated in many other sports too. But my background sort of is more a balance between academia and sport at a reasonably high level. So my credentials in terms of my learnings have been, I did sports performance conditioning at Loughborough University, the well-known university in this country, and then I sort of would move on to do teacher training. I studied psychology at postgraduate level, and now sort of working towards some new research in neuroscience. So I've got quite a broad area, but I did manage to play. I had to make a decision whether I sort of carried on participating in sport or do I sort of turn my attention to coaching, and I felt I was better placed because of injury and setbacks and so on and so forth to be and take the opportunity. And the opportunity came for me to work in football many years ago when I was helping out a training centre in London, and the guy who ran the training centre, he was a fitness coach at Crystal Palace. I was doing a course at Loughborough Sports Performance Conditioning, which was headed by one of the best coaches in this country of all time. He was the lead of that course. It was a special course for athletes, put together by John Gundy, who was said coach, trainer. Well, he was the lead of the course anyway. Loughborough was sort of the base we'd use. Dave, who was recently was the Palace fitness coach, took me on board in the centre, and he would give me players to work with who were sort of like struggling. And one of the first players I worked with was a lad called Paolo Nash. He was from Clitheroe. He's at Palace, struggling with confidence. And I was working with him physically, but also mentally, and that sort of gave me the breakthrough. And I would go on to sort of work with Premiership players and teams over many, many years. I never sort of intended to work in football, ironically, but it just worked out that way because I work in many other sports too, and I've also worked with high-risk offenders too as well. And I'm quite versatile in what I do, so it's not the only thing I do. But yeah, I've been pretty fortunate to have a broad range of experiences and good mentors, which is key. And I think sometimes what I would say is on your own journey, obviously it's great to have a balance between coaches who have played and continue to play at the highest level, but also bear in mind there's many managers who manage at the highest level who've never played because the game is different. Sometimes you've got players who play at the highest level, they expect their players to do what they could do, they don't transmit information as well as they could do. So that's one thing to take into consideration and going forward. Any other questions, comments otherwise? Okay.
How would you deal with anxiety in
Good question. Anxiety there's a broad spectrum of anxiety. I'm actually doing some research at the moment on anxiety, more subclinical. Anxiety, there's many, cutting a long story short because of time, I know you guys want to get out there. Anxiety, there's many different types of anxiety. The first thing I do with people who come to me with anxiety is I make sure that they see I suggest they see a GP first. And the reason being is that anxiety can be biological. It can have a biological base, for example, thyroid, other things it could be, which may need to be checked out. Having done that, the next thing I would do is to deal with it before, appraise the situation, develop psychosocial skills. So no two people are the same, but the breathing exercise, visualization, appraising the situation, really identify the beliefs about what's causing or triggering. Because anxiety, the challenge is that anxiety is we live in the way. It's the same neurological response as fear, but fear is real. Fear is real in the sense that it's an impending threat. Anxiety is a hypothesis of what might happen. The land of what if. What if we lose? What if I fail the exam? What if I don't get to uni? What if? So we work on the psychosocial strategies with anxiety. But anxiety is common. We all get it. I do. Everyone does. It's a perfectly, neurological response. But the key thing is there's a number of techniques, not one collectively, to break that. But what I would do is one way that's quite useful is practice breathing. Get more awareness of the way you're appraising situations as well. What's going on in your mind in terms of the anxiety. Sometimes this too shall pass. Not trying to fight it. No anxiety lasts forever. It's going to wear off. But the thing with anxiety, and Chris mentioned there, because it hits us really fast, we want it to go away really quick. But sometimes you've got to let it sort of fizzle out. It's like when you go into a dark room, you've got to adapt to the dark, the eyes will adapt. You go into the light, then immediately, your eyes readapt again. So for me, anxiety is sometimes just about letting it pass as well, and sort of breathing, but also speaking to people about how you feel and what's going on in your mind too is quite a useful thing too, if that's is okay. Because there's a very broad spectrum of anxiety, from subclinical to obviously clinical. And there's a fine line, guys, between performance goals and clinical goals. So I always say to people when I work in sport, especially in football, there's a very fine line between clinical performance. There's a fine line between someone being anxious and possibly clinical and needs clinical help, or a lack of motivation that could be on the threshold of, maybe depression and needs clinical help and just being related to performance. So if ever in doubt, see someone, qualified that you can talk to, and that's usually a GP in this country or clinician, because not suggesting anyone has, but equally in saying that obviously that's treated differently to performance. Performance is one thing, being anxious about performance is one thing, but obviously having panic disorder and anxiety, clinical anxiety, is a whole different ballgame altogether, and obviously that can spill in. That's not to say you can't work on performance, anxiety and other things, it's just you would approach it differently. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah.
So, if anything's sort of in your mind, you're struggling, then obviously, it's always best to get help. And it's not always common sense. I've seen it over the time. I've been in professional sport. Sometimes people who work in performance, there's a sort of grey area in sport in terms of what affects them. Because things are multifactorial. There's more than one pathway. Sometimes people have problems at home, have problems at school, they have, nutrition as well. I should have added to here too. It's really important. That can affect us too, how we feel. Nutrition plays a big impact as well in terms of what we eat, the way we modulate energy. So they're really, really important factors too going forward. Okay. Anything else?
Any final questions, girls?
Okay. So I wish you all the best on the weekend. Yes, thank you.
Steph, what are we going to do?